my relatives, friends, and citizens. I posted an ad on the Winnipeg Free Press asking licensed hunters to return their moose tags to the government of Manitoba. During this weekend, I was asked to be interviewed about that, and I agreed. During the interview, while I was speaking about our treaty rights and our NFA rights, the report asked what I thought about Premier Wabkiniw saying that the treaties are for sharing. I was surprised by that question, as I thought that Premier Wabkiniw would know our treaties and the injustices our people had to go through when it comes to revenue, AMD, resource sharing. Interviewer says that the Premier Wabkiniw said that the treaties are about sharing. On the surface, that sounds true and would be true if governments, including Manitoba, would honor and respect the treaties and agreements signed with our nation. But let's look into this deeper. When our ancestors entered into treaty, sharing meant respect. It meant mutual benefit. It meant living side by side in balance with the land and the waters. Sharing never meant surrender. It was never meant that one side takes everything while the other is left with nothing. Yet that is what Manitoba and Canada have done. They invoke the NRTA. They invoke words like projects of national interest. They use these words as weapons to bypass consultation, to ignore free, prior, and informed consent. The governments, they take the minerals, they take the energy, they take the wealth of our lands and waters. And what do they leave for First Nations? Basically nothing, or little more than broken promises. My friends, sharing without reciprocity is not sharing. It is exploitation. It is domination dressed up as generosity. True sharing requires justice and truth. True sharing requires reciprocity. True sharing requires recognition of our dignity as nations. Legally, the honor of the Crown is at stake. Section 35 of Canada's Constitution protects our treaties. The United Nations Declaration enshrines our right to consent and to benefit from our own lands. The NRTA imposed without our consent cannot and should not be used to deny us what is justly ours. Politically, Manitoba speaks of sharing but refuses revenue sharing. They refuse to share royalties. They refuse to share tax revenues from the resources taken from our territories. That is not partnership. That is colonialism under a new vocabulary. Ethically, no government should demand sacrifice from one people while denying them the fruits of their own land. That is not sharing. That is theft. If the Premier did speak of sharing in treaties, then let us speak of it honestly. Sharing must mean that First Nations are equal partners. Sharing must mean that when we give, we also receive. Sharing must mean justice, equity, and respect. Until then, Manitoba should not be speaking of sharing, because true sharing is not one-sided. True sharing is nation to nation,